We've talked a little bit about what the human experience is of artificial intelligence safety with the traffic accidents, and now we've discussed what the definition is. We'd like to talk about two distinct kinds of safety threats, and then some different strategies for measuring safety. And finally, we'll talk about innovation and safety and how they are related. So, safety threats. There are two distinct kinds of safety threats. The first is obvious. One is that the artificial intelligence is, in some sense, less than perfect. It fails. It could do better. It needs to be perfected. But there's also a second kind of safety threat in artificial intelligence, and that is that the machine is too perfect. It's better than perfect. It does too well at whatever task it has. So, in a certain sense, it is like these two glasses. A glass can be perfectly filled, but it can be imperfectly filled because it is underfilled or imperfect in the sense of being less than perfect, or it can be imperfect in the sense of being more than perfect, overfilled, overflowing. Right? Both amounts of alcohol or beer, I believe this is, both amounts of beer are wrong for the glass, but wrong in different ways. One is less than perfect, one is more than perfect. And AI operates in the same way. When we saw the AI driverless car go underneath the truck, that was a case of the AI being less than perfect. It was not as good as it could have been. But we can also imagine a case where AI is more than perfect, where it is too good. And this is a famous thought experiment from a philosopher named Nick Bostrom. It is called the paperclip, the thought experiment. And what he imagines is an artificial intelligence, very powerful artificial intelligence, is tasked with a simple duty that is to make paperclips. However, this artificial intelligence is so good at making paperclips, it does it so well that it ends up imprisoning all human beings and putting all human beings to work on an assembly line for paperclips. And then subsequently, it gathers all the raw materials in the world that could apply to paperclips, all the iron and steel and so on, monopolizes that, puts all that to the task of making paperclips, and soon the entire Earth is an environmental wasteland and a human dystopia because the AI is incarcerating all of us and harvesting the natural resources, everything, for the sole purpose of making paperclips, which is what it was supposed to do. In other words, the machine is doing just what it was supposed to do. The problem is doing it so well that it destroys everything else in the process. So this is an example of an AI which is unsafe, not because it is less than perfect, but because it is more than perfect. It does too well. It is too good. It destroys the entire Earth in the process of making these, dedicating everything to the single process of making paperclips. And I think as the story gets told, I think the story is that it goes beyond Earth and then spreads to the moon and the solar system and then other galaxies. And soon all of existence itself, the entire universe, is consumed by the making of paperclips. Of course, that's just a thought experiment that intentionally somewhat silly with the idea of paperclips, but the idea underneath is perfectly serious. The idea underneath is that if we are not careful about what we build our AI to do, if we are not careful about how we define exactly what it should and also what it should not do, then the risk exists that because it does its task so well, the ultimate results will be somehow ruinous. This would be especially applicable as we begin to think about the use of artificial intelligence in our war technologies. It takes very little imagination to build a case in which an AI, which is constructed to arrange the firing of missiles, performs not less than perfectly, but too perfectly, and for that reason leads to some kind of global Armageddon. So, to conclude this section, what we want to say is that when we talk about AI safety, there are two kinds of problems we are talking about. We're talking about the safety problems that arise when AI is less than perfect, when it is incomplete, when it does not do as well as it could at its task. And there are problems that arise when the AI is too perfect, when it performs its task so well that risks arise on the other side of perfection, in the area of over perfection.